Hi you guys, welcome, välkomna, добро пожаловать. My name is Samantha Rogers and this is True Crime Stories with Sal. Last time I forgot my original intro, forgot the welcome, välkomna, добро пожаловать. For those that don't know what I'm saying, by the way, I don't think I ever explained, but that's actually me saying welcome in Russian and Swedish. So välkomna is in Swedish and добро пожаловать is in Russian. So yeah, I don't think I ever actually said that to or explained that for those that don't speak those languages. Hope you guys enjoyed last Halloween edition. I did something new where I actually covered a unsolved a true crime story. I personally don't like unsolved crimes because I'm not impatient. Like I want to know. I want to know who killed them or her, him, whatever. I want to know what happened. Like I don't like not knowing, especially in movies too. Like if it's a movie that ends like right in the middle, and I'm like, you don't ever find out what happened, and it's not like clearly explained. Oh my god, I hate that so much. But that's just me. So if you guys do like unsolved, and I feel like unsolved is actually very important cases too because you never know. The world is so small, although you think it's big, but it's so small. Someone maybe stumble upon my account and watch the video and they're like, oh my god, I was there, I know what she's talking about, and such, and might come up with some clues of some form. So maybe I actually should cover a few unsolved. And but yeah, so let me know if that's something that you guys also interested in. Let me know in comments below. A quick disclaimer and content warning before we start off this story. I will be talking about murder. I will be talking about dismembering of a corpse, abuse of a corpse. And again, this story is 100% real. The people, the perpetrator, the victims are real people. I just modified or changed their names due to privacy. I feel like personally, maybe not everyone wants their story to be told, especially if it's a gruesome story. So I keep that private. You can always Google the people that I'm talking about if you wanted to after this and find out who they are and what have you. But I just chose to keep the victim's name changed. And with all of that being said, my darlings, let's get into today's story. It's a Sunday evening, November 31st, and the year is 1998. Two young guys were randomly just walking by this boat deck when they see a black plastic bag just floating in the water. And they kind of stopped, looked at it, and they were like, what do you think it's in there? Like, this is some super unusual and like suspicious. But they didn't want to find out themselves, just in case, which was perfect. I think that's a very great choice. They called the police instead of poking it around or what have you. When police arrived, they fished up this black bag, and the inside of that bag was something out of a horror story movie. It was a human torso. And of course, to everyone's shock, they couldn't believe what they were looking at. The torso seemed to belong to a male. The next day, on Monday, December 1st, in the early morning, a fisherman who also lived on his fish boat woke up of these crazy seagull noises. The seagulls were going crazy in the water. They making a lot of fuss, and woke him up. And he got up on the deck and to inspect to see what's going on. Why they're making so much fuss? Is it fish in the water, or what have you? And then he sees that they are like flying around, hovering around, and diving in. And it's a plastic bag, and he immediately thinks it's probably some garbage, maybe someone just being mean and threw out some garbage in the water. So he grabbed a pole, a fishing pole or what have you, to fish that bag closer to him so he can like retrieve it from the water. And once he did that, inside of this bag was human guts. He immediately called the police, and once the police arrived, they could determine that the human guts were belonging to the torso that they found that previous night. And I think I forgot to mention that this is the story is in fact from Sweden, and the place is Stockholm. So this is 1998 in Sweden, in Stockholm, the capital of Sweden. So after this remains, so the human torso, the inside, the guts, and all of that, the police and the media immediately came out that they found this torso to see if anyone could recognize it or know anything about it. And actually, that helped because a week after the discovery of the torso and the other parts or the guts, a man came, contacted the police. He said that on the November 30th, he was biking in the dock area, and he noticed a woman crouching down and throwing out black bags into the water. He first thought maybe it was some like stolen goods that she tried to get rid of or what have you. And he thought that this was suspicious because who would just in the middle of the like evening just go out there and throw out black bags into the water? So he kind of like noticed that, make a mental note, but he didn't bother her or anything and then continued to bike. But then when he saw the media coverage that the police recovered a human torso, light bulb went inside of his head. It's like, oh my God, I saw that woman. What if she has to do with this? Like, what if this is connected? So he told this story to the police, and he showed the police exact spot where he saw her throw those black bags into the water. Police immediately taped off the area and got divers diving into the water, and they retrieved several different black bags in the water. And some was actually the head of the victim, a human head. And the last little small black bag that they retrieved from the water was containing the severed male penis. One thing that the police also noticed was that the human head, which again belonged to a male victim, looked like it was cooked or like exposed to severe heat, and which they thought was very weird. So they got a sketch artist to come over and sketched this head, this human head, to publicize in the media, in the newspapers, for people to hopefully recognize, and they can, solve this case that way. A week after this human severed remains were discovered, a man going to work one morning, and he was commuting and he was going into the train to go to work, passed by this newsstand, and he never reads them. He never buys the magazines or newspaper. He never reads it. But this day, he just kind of like glanced over, and he saw in the front page of the news, he saw this head that the sketch artist sketched, and they were saying basically, we found a human head, and this is the sketch of it. If anyone can, identify it or know who this head belongs to. And when he saw that picture, he immediately just almost fainted. One glance on that photo, the man knew exactly who that person's head could belong to. His 81-year-old father. The man contacted the police immediately and told them that he suspects that this could be his 81-year-old father, who I will call Gregory. Gregory was a Romanian native who came to Stockholm, Sweden in the 70s with his wife. Once the police identified the body and it was indeed belonging to the 81-year-old Gregory, police immediately rushed over to Gregory's apartment. Upon arriving to the apartment, they knocked on the door, they rang the ring bell, no one answered. No one seemed to be inside of the apartment, so they knocked again. No one opened, so they had to open the door with force. Once they went into the apartment, no one was there. It didn't seem like it was any struggle going on. It didn't seem like no one broke into the apartment. Everything actually looked super duper clean. it didn't even look like no murder or dismemberment. Oh my God, that was a tongue twister for me. Dismemberment of a body even occurred because the apartment was spotless. But upon going over with forensics and, a little bit more in depth of finding some DNA or evidence, the police and the investigators could clearly see that someone tried to cover up the crime scene. They found a few drops of blood in the bathroom, in the bathtub particularly, that was belonging to Gregory. So they concluded that the dismemberment was happening in the tub. They also found pieces of Gregory's hairs and other, DNAs in the oven. And that answered the police's question why they could see that the human head was exposed to extreme heat. So basically, the perpetrator, after cutting off the head of Gregory, put his head in the oven, put the oven on max blasting heat, and kind of cooked the head. They also found a bloody, broken kitchen knife, which the blood again was Gregory's blood, and a bunch of other small DNAs around the kitchen area and the house. Upon further interviewing the son, who identified his father's head and the rest of the family, the police could conclude that Gregory didn't have any known enemies. He lived a relatively peaceful retirement life. He was 81. He, had his morning or day routine. He, didn't have anyone that bothered him, or he didn't bother anyone. So the only person that police and the family could think of was Gregory's second wife. I will call her Anita. You see, Gregory's first wife, who he, married in Romania and came together with in the 70s to Sweden. She passed away a few years previous to Gregory's now death. The couple was a very loving couple, and Gregory truly loved his wife. And when she passed away, part of him passed away with her. He loved her deeply, and he just became lonely and depressed. And his kids now are all grown up. They have their own family of their own. So he was just, spending his days by himself. One of his friends, who's also Romanian, told him that he knows of this woman who's also divorced, or who is divorced, and she lives in Romania, and that the friend thinks that her and Gregory would be a great match, and especially now that Gregory, feels alone, he needs a companion, more so of a companion than a sexual partner. So he felt like, you should definitely fly down to Romania and meet this woman. Her name is Anita. So that's exactly what Gregory did. He flew to Romania. He got to know Anita, and they hit it off. He, really liked her, and he invited her to come to Sweden with him. Anita said yes, and they both moved to Stockholm, Sweden, where they also got married in early months of 1998. So who was this Anita person? She was actually 20 years younger than Gregory, and she was born and raised in Romania. She, I believe, had 2 kids, but I'm just gonna, say daughter, because I know for a fact that she had a daughter, but she might have another daughter or a son. And she was always this type of woman that dreamt of leaving Romania and discover the world, moved to another place, and she heard that Sweden in particular, or Scandinavia, was this amazing countries, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, that's Scandinavia, for those that don't know. Basically, it's a lot of freedom. Everything is paid for, free medical care, free school, a great education. So she always wanted to explore Scandinavia, but didn't have the money or the resources or the connections to move. And she also had her kids, who she was very devoted to, very a great mother. She, focused on her kids, and her priorities was her children. She was divorced and became a single mother. But now, as her kids are older, her daughter has her family of her own. She felt like now could be the time that Anita can focus on herself and maybe, travel a little bit or explore the world, because she's still, in her 40s, she's still young. And when she got introduced to Gregory and found out that Gregory is a Swedish citizen, he lives in Stockholm, Sweden, he's divorced and actually looking for a companion, and he was fairly interested in Anita, she immediately took this chance. This was her ticket out of Romania. This was her dream coming true. And it didn't matter that Gregory was 20 years older than her. She didn't care. It's now or never for her. If she doesn't move out of Romania now, God knows she might never do so. According to neighbors and the family of Gregory, the relationship between Anita and Gregory were seemingly good, fine. They were both kind of having the same hobbies. They love walking outdoors, taking long hike walks. They had a little spot in the community garden where they were like gardening and planting their own vegetables or what have you. So they love on Saturday, Sundays, that's when they spend their times. The neighbors never heard them arguing or screaming at each other. They were, seemingly nice, cute couple. Gregory's son also told the police that his dad finally looked happy. He didn't look depressed or sad. He felt like he finally had someone, a partner in his life that he can, continue exploring his life or living a life with someone. Anita was also a great cook. They loved cook together and invite the family or go over to his son, or the son come over to them and have like dinners and what have you. So everything seemed perfect and nice. But digging deeper into the relationship, the police came to find out that Anita was actually sending money to her daughter back in Romania. She was sending 300 krona, or 3,000 krona to her daughter each month. And 3,000 krona is equal to like $350. And believe it or not, 3,000 krona is actually like the standard amount of a rent, like a rent money. So basically you can have this gorgeous one-bedroom apartment in Sweden and you can pay only $350 a month. That's the rent. Yeah, it's crazy comparison to what we pay here in in the US, or especially in LA. Like, yeah. so that type of money is a lot. So basically 3,000 krona is paying for someone's rent, and it's a lot of money. And again, Gregory is on pension. He's not working. He's 81-year-old. In the beginning, he was fine with it, but then he figured that was a lot of money. And he basically either wanted Anita to cut out the payment completely or cut it down in half. So maybe send her 1,000 or 1,500. And of course, Anita didn't take that very well. And they began arguing about this. She felt like he was a cheap old man that didn't want to help out her poor daughter that lives in Romania, while they are living this great life in Stockholm, Sweden. Her daughter barely makes it back in Romania, and this is like, at least she can help her with something. And so, yeah, this put a good amount of argument and negativity into their relationship. Now that we know all the facts, and now that we know that it was Gregory's body that was found, we know that Gregory is married to Anita, and that brings us back to the timeline of when the police is searching inside of the apartment. And so they found all this evidence. They figured that the dismemberment was in the apartment. The only thing that they couldn't find is Anita. and they know for sure that Anita and Gregory share this apartment together. They live together, but Anita is nowhere to be found. A massive hunt for Anita begun. The police went out, full search. They put pictures of her in the magazines, in the newspapers, everywhere. And a source close to Anita actually revealed that she fled back to Romania. After a few months on the run, Anita was found in Romania. She was brought back to Stockholm, Sweden, and the trial began. Anita, of course, pled not guilty, but again, it was a lot of evidence proving otherwise. It was just in witness statements and what have you. So she was actually sent to 6 years in Swedish prison, and then she would be deported back to Romania and serve the rest of her life in a Romanian prison. Anita was also named the first Swedish female like butcher murder or whatever, Styckmördare in Swedish. I don't really like, if I translated word for word, it's basically someone that butchers someone or cuts someone into pieces. So yeah, that type of, like, basically she's the first female murder that cut someone into pieces. After 6 years and serving in Swedish prison, Anita was sent back to, deported back to Romania. And from the research that I could find, she served only 11 years in Romanian prison before she was released. So that was in 98, 99. So yeah, she's still living in Romania. She's deported, so she can never return to Sweden. And we really don't know what happened to her. I don't know if she remarried or what's going on, or if she's just living under a rock in Romania. So basically, she only served a total of 16 years for butchering, killing a loving 81-year-old man who only wanted a companion to, you know, have fun with and live out the rest of his life. And this is what he got in return. Another thing that I couldn't really find in my research, again, this was not a lot of, I noticed that a lot of Swedish cases that I research, they don't have a lot of details and not have a lot of, like, you know, information, but in this one as well. So one thing that I'm curious about, why did she cut off his penis? Like, that seems like a very personal, like, sexual attack. I don't know. And if, say, the motive is the money, that he didn't want her to send 3,000 krona every month to her daughter, I mean, I don't know, cutting off someone's penis just because of that sounds a little bit too overkill. So we, in my opinion, again, who am I? No one, just a YouTuber, love true crimes. But in my opinion, I feel like it's much more than just the money situation. We never know, again, behind closed doors, you never know what people going through. So maybe Gregory was not this great guy. Maybe he was abusive, or maybe he did something worse to her that she felt like this rage to cut off his private parts. Or maybe she is a deranged lunatic. Maybe she is like, I don't know, maybe this is not her first kill, you know. We don't know much about her ex-husband. Maybe she just had this hatred for men. Maybe she was, you know, exposed to violence or sexual abuse and just finally, you know, had her boiling point that, you know, Gregory just, like, you know, she just took out on him and butchered him, cut off his private parts, cut off his head, cooked his head, and just went on a rampage. Again, speculation on my part. We will never know. But besides all of that, the sad part is a person, a man, an elderly man, lost his life. My heart goes out to Gregory's son. I believe he also had other kids too, but again, the son was mentioned. So I'm going to mention the son. My heart goes out to his son and to, you know, all of the people that were basically affected by all of this tragic event. I'm sure also Anita's daughter was shocked finding out what her mother did. just tragic. What can we take away from this story, or what can we learn from this? God, I don't know. Honestly, feels like after all of this, you truly never know a person. Like, I don't know, like just going to cases nowadays, like with the Gabby Petito. If you haven't heard of her story, I'm sure you have. Huge media coverage of that. But like, went on a country crossroad with her fiance. He killed her, killed himself, and then TikToker recently this week just shot his wife, and they had a daughter together because he suspected her of cheating, and they were actually separated. She kicked him out because he was abusive before, and he copied the key, stormed into the apartment, and shot her to death. And like, you know, so again, you never know what's going on behind people's closed doors, and I feel like with the Anita and Gregory's case, I mean, you think this is like a older couple, or he's older, she's in her 40s, like you think people had more brain, or like calm down with their psychoticness, but no, you never know. So I mean, you guys stay safe, honestly, no matter what, if you're a woman or a man, doesn't matter really, like, stay safe out there. Well, my darlings, that was it for today's case. I know it's a little short one, but again, this is all the info that I can find, especially when I do the Swedish cases. It's not a lot of information out there, so it's very hard for me to, do a longer case. But I hope you enjoy this. And again, thank you so much for watching. I know some of you guys are religiously watching my episode. This gonna be my 6th episode. It's crazy. I really enjoy doing these cases. And again, let me know if you like the unsolved ones as well. I can always do unsolved cases. Not every Friday, but now and then put in an unsolved case where, if you guys enjoy that as well, where I actually mention the victim's real identity, or tell the real name and photos of the victim and what have you. So let me know if that's something of your interest. And again, if you do choose to leave comments, make sure they are nice comments, be respectful. And don't forget to like and subscribe, hit that notification bell. My channel is still fairly new, so if you could spread the word, if you know someone that knows someone that knows someone that loves true crime, please send them my way. The more love, the better. And especially for the unsolved cases in the future, the more attention on these, the greater chance for them to get solved. And like I always say, stay safe out there, be careful, and practice self-love. Love yourself first. And I hope I see you guys next Friday. Ciao, cacao.